The Chicago Bulls will take the court for the first time after the All-Star break in just 2 days on the 19th. One of the questions that's going to be ahead of them leading into that game is, what happens with this guard logjam once Josh Giddey and Tre Jones comes back? We're going to talk a little bit about that and what they can do with all these guards and why AK needs to have a Ryan Poles level offseason this year if he wants Bulls fans even have a monochrome of trust back for him and where this organization is headed. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod at every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're going to start off with this, man. Josh Giddey and Tre Jones, leading into what was things were looking like before the All-Star break, should be returning back to the court pretty soon. And I say should be because we still don't exactly know, right? Like it's weird that they were upgraded to doubtful. There seem to be upgrades over the last 3 games before the Chicago Bulls actually went into the All-Star break. They haven't yet taken the court, but, that's going to be, I think, a long way, too, in kind of showing exactly what the Bulls' goal here is. I say it on every episode now just because I want to be fair and represent both sides. You have your Bulls fans that are firmly in. Now, this team is tanking. Have your Bulls fans in? We're not tanking. We're going to be right back in competing for the 9th and 10th seed once Josh Giddey, Tre Jones, and Jalen Smith comes back. And so I think that's a big part in that. And do they get held out even longer? Because if we see players that, were upgraded right before the All-Star break, and it's not like they had any type of major injuries to where, they had anything that was sprained or anything like that. It was strains, right? It was a hamstring strain, not a sprain. And while that can lead you to be out for, 2 to 3 weeks, we're reaching the upper point of even being past that beyond that if that were to happen. Neither one of these guys has played since the trade deadline. So you're looking at that, and if for some reason we come out of the All-Star break and in 2 days on the 19th, it gets announced that Josh Giddey and Tre Jones still aren't playing, it's going to be kind of even more clear that, all right, the Bulls are clearly holding these guys out intentionally if that ends up being the case, right? So, we're going to operate with the sense that right now it looks like they should be back as scheduled. And if they don't return as scheduled, then that opens up a whole new can of questions, right? But when they do come back, it looks at how many minutes do they play. I think that's a big part in kind of really dictating where the Bulls are exactly right now. And what does the rotation look like after those guys come back? Josh Giddey's played in 34 games this season, 31 starts in that time. He's leading the Chicago Bulls in scoring at 18.6. He's doing those type of things. He leads us in total assists, and he's had 7 triple-doubles so far this season as well. Josh Giddey is balling. Statistically, he's having a really good season this year, right? You look at Tre Jones. He's second in the team in assists. He's top in steals on this team as well, and he's shooting 55% from the field, even though he doesn't necessarily take a lot of shots. He has a really good 4-to-1 turnover assist to turnover ratio. If I can get that out, I don't know why my brain farted on that one. So there's just no doubt about it that Tre Jones and Josh Giddey definitely help this team be a better team. And I've said it before, if winning or not, they're going to help this team play real basketball, right? And an actual system that helps the development of these players, right? Now, before the All-Star break happened, they were participating in 3-on-3s. They were at full speed before the break. That came from Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. So their minutes and their availability would show a lot in regards to what the goal is here, I think, over the last part of the season, right? But I think when you also look at it, we got to clear out this logjam. Look at what the Bulls guard rotation. It's not about depth. It's about crowdedness at this point. At some point, it's depth, and then at some other point, it converts from depth to just quietness, to crowdedness. Now, the Bulls don't have a lot of actual point guards on this team. Tre Jones and Josh Giddey are still the only actual point guards on this team, and it's not just about height. Don't tell me about Anthony Simon's height and Jaden Ivey's height and why that makes them a point guard, because it doesn't, right? We're talking about skill set and the roles that they play. And I get it. In the modern NBA, too, it's more about, hey, you got guards out there, and that's what Billy Donovan likes to do. But let's just look at the guard rotation for the Bulls. So you got you got Josh Giddey, who's the starting point guard, right? So you have that. And then you probably have a mix between Colin Sexton, Jaden Ivey, Anthony Simons as your starting two. Well, Colin Sexton's been coming off the bench. So let's just say Anthony Simons is your starting two. I think he offers the best if you're trying to win games, so everything that I talk about is from the standpoint of just regular basketball. I'm not talking about tanking or anything like that. I'm just talking about regular basketball when I'm talking about lineups, right? Like tanking lineups don't matter because you're just throwing people out there. But the Bulls have Josh Giddey, Tre Jones as your actual point guards. Then you have a mix between Anthony Simons, Jaden Ivey, as well. I guess you consider Rob Dillingham an actual point guard too, because that's the role that he has to play. Yes, he's a scoring guard, but he's going to have to play point guard at being 6'1", right? I think that's what we would all like to agree with. But then again, Tre Jones started at shooting guard for us, which is anyway. So you have Josh Giddey, Tre Jones, Rob Dillingham. Those three, those are more aligned to be point guards. And then at the shooting guards, you have Anthony Simons, Colin Sexton, who's coming off the bench, more of a combo guard, I guess, if you're looking at that. Jaden Ivey as well. And you're just like, okay, what is this team doing with this lineup? That guard-heavy lineup is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know that the Bulls, having as many guards as what we have, it already throws into the fact that you're looking at it's a very weird lineup. And let's be clear, some people even still consider Isaac Okoro more of a guard than a straight-up forward. He can play small forward because he can guard the role, but even at him being 6'4", right? But you got a number of players in it. And Jaden Ivey, 6'3". Anthony Simons, 6'3", even though they both have long wingspans, they're 6'3". Colin Sexton, 6'3", right? Like, you don't have anybody who's at your guard position other than Josh Giddey. We know he's an actual point guard that's over the height of 6'4", 6'5", that can play, the more kind of versatile wings that you like to see nowadays, which brings about another problem, right? Even though Jaden Ivey's listed at 6'3" now, but he measured at the draft combine at 6'4.5" without shoes. I have no idea what's going on with the heights in the NBA. It's ridiculous. It's weird. But this is either going to be either Billy Donovan is licking his chops at the case of being able to use this many guards, or it's going to be a complete and utter logjam. And then when you get into a place where you're trying to evaluate these players, right? That's still the thing that you're looking at, is evaluating for who's going to stay. Some of those guys are going to stay. I don't think there's a world. Well, let me not say I don't think it's a world. I think it's highly unlikely that you look at Simons, Sexton, and Jaden Ivey are all gone at the end of the season, heading into next season. 1 or 2 of those guys are going to come back. You look at Josh Giddey, Tre Jones, Rob Dillingham. All those guys have contracts for next season. Now, if the Bulls do see something from Rob Dillingham, maybe they do feel a little bit more comfortable at moving off of Tre Jones this offseason, a player that we've heard does have some value around the league. So you can look at that. And even though, we talk about the Bulls being very guard heavy, we actually have some of the best balance that we've had in a while. It's just what level are these guys going to play at? Even when you look at our forward rotation, right? You have Matas Buzelis, who we know can play both forward spots. Jalen Smith, who can play the 4 and the 5, but I really like him at the 4 and Matas Buzelis at the 3. You still got Isaac Okoro, who's going to play some at the 3. You still have, as well as Gershon Yabusele, who can play the 3 and the 4. We've even seen him play some small ball 5. So you have that one. You have some depth here. You have kind of versatility in the lineups with your center position. You got Nick Richards. You got Nick Richards. You got Nick Richards, Jalen Smith, who can both play the 5. Lachlan Albrecht, if you decide to bring him in and let him play a little bit too. Zach Collins, I think I would not be surprised at all if we hear that Zach Collins is shut down for the rest of the season. I would just not be surprised at that at all. Could be wrong, but it wouldn't surprise me if you hear that. But this guard rotation, this logjam that we have, is not gonna listen. And that's why I have my doubts that even if the Bulls do try to win games, right? That how successful are they going to be in that? We're going to be running a lot of 3-guard lineups, and you're going to see, and that's if they even plan on playing all these guards. So either you're going to see some guys out the rotation, which I think you can see maybe Colin Sexton and Rob Dillingham out of the rotation when things are going. Sexton's averaging 17.7 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, and 2 assists in 30 minutes a night for the Chicago Bulls. He has not been bad at all. Like, Colin Sexton could put up production, but you have to look at it and ask yourself, like, are they valuing more the development of Rob Dillingham over the production of Colin Sexton the rest of the way through for this team? And that's something that you really got to look at, man. So when us coming out of the All-Star break, things aren't completely clear. We still got a number of things that we're really looking at and trying to keep an eye on as we come out of that, because who the hell knows what's going on here? The Chicago Guards. That's basically should be the name of the team, is the Chicago Guards, because we are tough right now in that guard position, and the rotation is going to be really wonky. And We'll see how the Bulls figure that out. But the reason why I say the Bulls have to figure these things out is because we already know the Bulls have fallen out of the play-in, as it stands right now. Now, could they technically get back in it? Yeah, they can technically get back in it. It's not that they are so far behind. They are only 1.5 games behind the Atlanta Hawks for the 10th seed, and the Milwaukee Bucks are right there tied as far as with the Chicago Bulls as well. So you look at that sandwich. The Charlotte Hornets have put a nice 2-game distance between the Bulls, but again, they were 9-1 before the All-Star break in their last 10 games. But if they go on a losing streak as well, they can that 9th seed could be right back up for grabs too. So you're looking at the 9th and the 10th seed. You have Hornets, Hawks, Bulls, Bucks. Those are 4 of those. 2 of those teams are going to walk away with those last 2 spots. 2 of the teams are going to find themselves on the outside looking in. And is that going to be the Bulls? I guess we could say, but I want to actually flip this conversation and talk about it in a different light. I want to look at the teams that could pass the Chicago Bulls next season if AK doesn't have a great year. And we'll talk about what AK needs to do and why he needs to do it here after that. But teams are nipping at the heels of the Bulls. The Charlotte Hornets already a team that look like they have a much brighter future than the Chicago Bulls. The Hornets, a team that has made so many mistakes and blunders over the last couple of years. They had themselves a really good draft. Colin Knippel looks like one of the best players to come out of that draft. He's playing really well. And the Charlotte Hornets find themselves right back in the play-in, right? The Atlanta Hawks with their young team led by Jalen Johnson and the way that they've refocused that roster around youth, right? And they have the New Orleans Pelicans first-round pick that they can add a hell of a talent to that young core. Those are teams that are already past the Chicago Bulls this season. Now let's look at it going into next season, teams that can pass the Bulls, right? And this is why when people say things like, all right, yeah, like, cool, the Bulls have reset the deck, but they're going to have a good offseason, is that, hey, the Indiana Pacers, they got Zubac, and they got Tyrese Halliburton coming back. And while this is a 15-win team this season, think about it this way. They're going to have a top 5 to 10 pick in this, probably a top 8 pick in this draft, right? They're going to have that. Even if they don't keep that pick, if they want to get a win-now player in, they can trade that pick and probably get anybody they want that's available to add to that Indiana Pacers team. So the Pacers are definitely a team that's going to be looking better than the Chicago Bulls next year, you would think. And then another team that has the ability to do that as well is the Washington Wizards. And the reason why I say that is this. Right now, we don't know who's going to be on the Bulls next year. What do we know about the Washington Wizards next season? They're going to have at least Tre Young. They're going to have Anthony Davis. And while both those players have some major injury concerns over the course of their career, they're joining a young team that, hey, I tell you what, the Washington Wizards have only won 14 games this season, but if you watch more of that team, you'll see they were in a lot more of those games than what the win total told you. They're just a young team that doesn't know how to win yet. Bub Carrington, Tre Johnson, Coulibaly, right, who's really stepped up. Alexander Sarr, who's looked a lot better as well, recently this season. They have Keyshawn George as well. Like, they got some young players down there that actually look pretty good, and you're adding 2 former All-Stars to that team also. Listen, I don't agree with what the Washington Wizards did at the trade deadline. I think that they pushed all their chips in win now moves for next season, where they still have a very young team that should, they should be looking to develop that kind of more slowly over time. But I would not be surprised if somehow the Washington Wizards find themselves in the play-in at least next season. I would not be surprised at that at all. And that is why every year that you're in the NBA, any professional sport for that matter, that you don't improve and the teams around you improve, you've actually gotten worse. And that is what we can see this season, next season for the Chicago Bulls, is that teams that legitimately have been below the Bulls, the Hornets already passed us. The Hawks now look like they're definitely about to pass us as well. They've been in that play-in with us in a while. They're probably still going to be in that. We'll see. And as it stands right now, which teams are you looking at that get worse? The Pistons are young. They're only going to get better. The Boston Celtics didn't have Jason Tatum for the majority of this year, even though he looks like he's returning. They're going to be better next season. The New York Knicks, we'll see what they end up doing, but at the bare minimum, I think that they stay the same. The Cleveland Cavaliers probably stay the same as well. The Toronto Raptors, another young team that's probably going to get better, and we know that they were looking at this trade deadline to actually make win-now moves. The Philadelphia 76ers, they can get better with VJ Edgecombe growing and Tyrese Maxey playing at an MVP level this season. Orlando Magic are always a weird team. I don't know what they're going to do with their roster. I don't know what they're going to do for their future, but they're always a weird team, but they're already better than the Bulls. So then you're looking at the Heat that have been in the play-in every year of its existence, just like us. You're looking at the Charlotte Hornets, who I just said have already passed up the Chicago Bulls and have a much brighter future based off where their roster is right now, that they just have more things that make sense and fit together. The Atlanta Hawks, they're going to add a top 5 pick probably to their already good young core that has more wins than the Bulls this season. And then you're looking at the Indiana Pacers and Washington Wizards and Don't get me started on the Milwaukee Bucks. They can go either way, right? If they decide to try to make win now moves as well, they're another team that could get a lottery pick this year and try to use that to actually add some good weapons to this team rather than take away from the team. That's dangerous if they decide to do that. So you have all these things that are adding in. The Bulls, if they even just want to stay where they are, have to have a great offseason. If they want to improve from where they are now and actually compete for something, they got to have a hell of an offseason, which brings us to the last planned topic for this episode. Artūras Karnišovas is going to have a Ryan Poles level offseason this year if he wants Bulls fans to have any faith in this team and the direction that they're on. What do I mean by that? Because not everybody is a Chicago Bears fans. Ryan Poles is the GM of the Chicago Bears, and heading into the 2025 offseason, a lot of people doubted Ryan Poles. He had not been able to improve that offensive line. He had some trades that did not end up working out for the team and did not end up helping. He had some draft picks that didn't end up working out, and he missed on some deals that actually he probably should have taken because he had some blind loyalty to some players he drafted. Shout out to Tre Jones. Now, when you hear some of those things, what are some of those things? How do they translate to the Chicago Bulls? What's one thing that we've lacked on this team for years? Rim protection. That's basically AK's version of the offensive line. AK has missed on tons of draft picks, a higher percentage probably than what Ryan Poles has missed on, and some questionable trades. That's Artūras Karnišovas, right? What Ryan Poles did in the 2025 offseason, though, is he had one of the best offseasons of Chicago Bears history, completely revamping that offensive line, changing 4 out of 5 starters on that offensive line heading into next year. Now, basketball is very different. You only have 5 starters, so you can't change that many of them. But he changed and completely revamped that offensive line with a mix of veterans and a mix of youth between Theo Benedict and Ozzie Trapillo, right? He had a great draft class that was headlined by Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, and Kyle Monangai. And that's not the only guys that really stood out on that draft class either. Those are just the guys that headline those draft classes, right? So Ryan Poles had an offseason where he made trades, he had a really good free agency, and he had a really good draft. And the Chicago Bears had their first playoff win in over 10 years, right? And that's what you like to see from this football team. I mean, what a lot of Bears fans needed and wanted to see from their football team. They got to see that last season. And now, heading into the 2026 offseason, where Ryan Poles has to fix the defensive line, there's just more faith going forward into that. Now, they also changed the coach, which completely changed their direction as well. But I also got to give Ryan Poles credit for that. The prior offseason in 2024, Ryan Poles was one of the guys that wanted to keep on Matt Eberflus, a head coach that had just not had success. Do you see where the parallels keep happening at? The difference, though, is that Ryan Poles actually woke up, turned shit around, made a great head coaching change and search, had a great offseason, and now there has been faith restored in the Chicago Bears. Can AK do something similar for the Chicago Bulls? That is the question. I've said it many times before. I don't have faith in AK. He got to show me. I understand that the options are out there, and I'm always going to be somebody that's fair in judging and saying, hey, this is the opportunity that's been opened up. This is what could be done with that. But it is up to Artūras Karnišovas to actually take advantage of that and turn that into something that we then look at and say, all right, shit, he did it. It worked. Now we have a little bit more faith in him. So while I have my doubts around AK and his ability to do that, I want to turn it over to you guys in this one. When it comes down to restoring any semblance of faith, I'm not saying full faith. I wouldn't even dare to say that. Any semblance of faith in this team. Would firing Billy Donovan be something that helps with that? Would having a great draft class where we look at it and we say, damn, AK had a really good draft class, which nailing free agency? Or do you have to see a combination of all those things to restore a little bit of faith in our Chicago Bulls team and where the direction they're headed? I'll ask you guys that one since the last time I asked the question, my boy Todd missed these, or Vaughn missed the assignment. But with that said, let me get into we got one mailbag that I want to get into today. This one's from the 770.
Yo, what's up, Shy Bulls Central? Hey, what's the word? Hey, y'all, kid. I was listening to your most recent Saturday upload, and you was just joking to a caller, and he was missing an assignment. And I was thinking, like, you say he missing an assignment. That got me thinking about the most recent Bulls acquisitions. Like, because we here, they speak, we know about a rebuild. They know they competing for roster spots. And when I look back on the game, I'm not going to act like I sat through them all, but when I look back on them, I remember Jaden Ivey playing a point guard role. You feel me? Real IQ-ish, efficient distributor. You know what I mean? And that's cool. You feel me? That's cool enough. But we need him to be Jaylen Brown for us, a defense and buckets type of guy. And Simon's kind of got it, but what Michael Blackson say on next Friday? I can't get jiggy with this shit. You feel me? Cause our team can't flow and our roles not assigned. It just don't align. You can't do it. But Dillingham, he got a chance to run second unit if Ivey lock in on his role. But if you do that, that's eventually gonna let Rob come into his own. And I envision our offense ran through more bodies, but knowing Billy, he gonna have like a 10-man rotation, and that's only why I say we gonna trade Tre and bring in Smith and Zach Collins on a friendly contract. Due to our injury, we should have like a solid depth if Ivey and them can figure it out. Let's make that clear. That's if they can figure it out. If they don't figure it out, shit, Simons and Sexton and Collins, Abusele, they gone. Tre, Dillingham, Ivey, they gonna stay with Giddey, Montes, and Noah in the picks. You know what I'm saying? Coro only good. He only good on point of attack defense, tiny cuts. We're gonna have to choose between him or Pete Will. But one of them leaving as well with them shifting into a rebuild. If they both stay, Tre Jones gone for sure. I just don't see the Bulls committing to a player they don't see in their future, you know? Anyway, that's what I think. Let me know what y'all think. This shit, Haize.
Ivey as a point? I don't know where you're getting that one. I don't think Ivey is really a point, going forward. I think that you want him as a scoring guard or on-ball scoring guard. So I don't really think that he's a distributor or anything like that. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, right, is that the Bulls have guards that I think in the guards they got with Sexton, Ivey, and Simmons is that you're trying to look, or Simons, is that you're trying to look at who could possibly fit and be a stopgap while you maybe find a long-term mate. Now, maybe Ivey is a long-term backcourt mate with Josh Giddey, but I think that's what they're trying to do in that. As far as Tre, I don't know what's going to happen with Tre Jones in the offseason. They could definitely look to move him. I know that Billy Donovan loves him, but if they really feel that they see something in Rob Dillingham, and I mean that's the spot that you have to open up for him. So I mean I guess we'll see what happens there. But it's a great question and something to keep an eye out as we head into that offseason is what's going to happen there. That's for 100% sure. But all right, y'all, that's going to do it for my time today, man. If you enjoyed today's content, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. But I need to hear from you guys on this one, right? When Tre Jones and Josh Giddey come back, do you want wins? Do you want lottery odds? Do you want development? Do you want a combination of two of those three things? And also, what needs to happen for the Bulls to have, for your faith to be restored just a little bit in the Chicago Bulls this offseason? Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave us a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. That's because of you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe, see red, and always go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.